Hello and welcome to Friday. Sad occasion because, as you may know, if you've seen some of the posts that I had made yesterday, we lost Tony Van Silva yesterday, and he was a very important member of the British Stunt Register. Not just because a very fine stuntman, which he was. He came from a wrestling background, so fights, they were his bread and butter. And often, if you would see a movie whereby there was a bar brawl or a fight in some shape or form, often Tony would be in there. There's the the Cray movie with Tom Hardy. There's a bar brawl in that. He's in the thick of it, and often would get cast as a stuntman as a character. That was often the case. So he's got that look. He got a look about him. You know, we have discussed this before with certain other performers, where you look at them and you immediately know that bloke is not long for this movie. He's just got that face that says, oh, yep, he's not going to make the end of the scene, you know. And Tony had that in buckets full. So would often be cast on the basis of firstly being very good, but secondly, he had that face. He had a face that was ideal for the character. It could be a blink and you'll miss it moment. It could be something that lasts over a period of time. Nevertheless, he was there and was always very welcome by everybody on a film or television series. I got to meet him back in 2013 in Belfast. You may have seen the footage, but I'm still going to show it to you because it's amazing footage of his sensational fire burn, partial body burn. Looks like a full burn, but it's a partial body burn. And you see, as soon as he's lit in the doorway, he goes up, he puts his hands up here because he's aware of the fact, and when we ran through the whole thing, he was aware of the fact that that breeze could come around and catch him. And he's just trying to keep the heat, the flame, the breeze away from his face by moving forward. We were hoping that when he got to a certain point, he'd have to make a turn to come through the stacked tables and chairs. He was going to crash through those, and that would have been the point where he would go down. But as he turns, we're in a courtyard, and he then had no alternative but to go down on his knees and down onto the floor very quickly. That was the key, down on his knees. But as soon as he goes down on the floor flat, then the safety guys put him out. Rocky put him out, and the BBC safety guy put him out. And then I went in with the wet blanket to make sure that there was no chance he would reignite for whatever purpose. But that was the only thing. But that was 12 or 13 seconds. And it was absolutely spectacular. It was one of the most exciting things I think I've ever seen in my life. And I said this to him. I would go back and say this to him on a regular basis. That the noise that he creates, the noise of fire, is unbelievable, and done in a safe environment and done in the way that it's done in film. You see it a lot. You know, you see the guy on fire, you hear the screams, and, you know, there's often background noise and bits and pieces, but you hear the scream of the guy and waving arms and running away. What you don't hear is the sound of the fire. And that's what I caught that day. That's what stood out for me. And consequently, whenever I've seen fire jobs subsequently after that, or you go back and watch stuff from before, you think, my God, the noise must be deafening. And it was deafening, the fire running up the back of the coat and burning the coat. You know, he's got a flammable gel on there, his skin, all the possibilities round the hat, it's all got protective gel on it, a cooling gel, which will stop that heat transference that little bit longer. It's going to get warmer. He will feel the heat, but it is going to get a little bit warmer over time. And it was, and I go back and say to him, it's still one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my life. What a fantastic, I'm so lucky to have been in a situation where, firstly, I got to know him, and he was a wonderful, wonderful character. And secondly, I got to be there while he was performing this very dangerous gag, but incredibly professional, incredibly focused, and did an absolutely staggeringly good job. And there's a thing on the video which I think is fantastic, which is Rocky says to him, "You okay?" He says, "Tony Van Silva." And the audience go, "Yeah," because it was a live audience that were there watching what was going on. And he gets up and he shakes Rocky's hand, and the look on his face says it all. He is thrilled by how good it was. He'd done partials before. He did an arm, he'd done a back, he'd done a few bits and pieces, but that was a biggie. And he was certainly ablaze for much longer than he had been before. And all of those things, they all add up. And I said to him, as soon as I saw it, I said, "Well, that's it." I said, "That is going on your show reel, no two ways about it." And that's exactly what we did. We put it on there. And so I've got some show reel footage to show you as well. It goes back to some little TV shows from way back. It's got some of his grappling. He was a wrestler. That's how he got into the business in the first place. So we've got some of that. I think there's some fight stuff in there as well. A whole bunch of bits and pieces. But this is his reel. Let's put it on, have a look at it, and we'll come back afterwards. And we'll talk about Tony. Here we go. it's great stuff. You know, there's stuff from there. You go, oh, I remember that. And he's got that face, you know. You know, doubling Elton John on the Kingsman movie. It's a fascinating situation anyway to have Elton John in that picture. But, of course, it's Tony doubling him, you know. And then there was the Transformers picture, and he's doubling Anthony Hopkins. And he was really thrilled when he sent me that photo. And he said, you'll never guess who I'm doubling. What? Who? And he sent me the picture, and I went, Jesus, what a good double. And they really did look very, very good together. And of course, Skyfall, he was Albert Finney's double in Skyfall for the fire sequence, and Tina Maskell is doubling Judi Dench for that sequence as well. So lots of stuff that both Albert Finney and Judi didn't need to do, and these guys were doing such good doubles. Such professionals. Tony was such a joy. When he rang, you knew that you were going to have 10, 15 minutes of absolute joy. The clip there, of course, the other one on there is from Still Game. And he rang me and said, look, I'm doing this thing in Scotland. I've just done this thing in Scotland. And would you be able to find the clip for me, which I did. And it's just brilliant. I just love the way that they're all talking about the pub and how it's a bit rough and, you know, blah-de-blah. And then Tony comes out through the door, window, door, the whole thing collapses. He goes out and he takes a look at them and casually brushes himself off and turns and walks back in again. I mean, it's typical, that absolute typical look of his. You know, you could have a really gruesome moment and he would just have a look, and that look would be enough to sell the entire sequence in a different direction. He's such a talented bloke, and I miss him enormously. We would catch up quite often. We'd have a bell now and again just to see how he was getting on. I never had an opportunity to get down to Brighton to see him, which is a great shame. You know, it's a terrible time for his wife Carol and the family and friends who knew him intimately. And there are people who've worked with him in and out. He's always on certain productions. He was always relied upon by certain coordinators and say, right, come and do some stuff for me and do that thing you do. So it didn't really matter what it was, but he was always there. He was always very, very good. And he is a great loss, not just as a stunt performer. And this is the key to the whole thing. Yes, he's a stunt man, and he will be missed because of his stunt work and his ability on screen and all of that and his experience. But what he also will be missed for is the way in which he was able to put absolutely everybody at their ease. If you're a newbie, if you come on and this is a new, you know, whole new thing for you, it could be a first production. You may never have been on a film set before. Chances are you will have been, but you may not have been. You may not have been on a film. You may have done television or whatever it is, but you may not have done a film. Tony would have been one of those individuals that would have come to you and would have said, how are you doing? You all right? You had a cup of tea? Good. All right. So this is the idea of what we do. This is where we are. This is what happens over here. So-and-so over there, he's, you know, there's the stunt coordinator, right? That's fine. These are all the bits and pieces and stuff. Leave your phone here. That's got to go in there. You don't do anything of this. You run through the general etiquette and rules. Also being a, you know, hilariously funny individual. And he would make it funny for people so they would be at their ease. And I think that was very keen. I found that a lot with the students that he was working with when we were in Belfast. It didn't matter what was happening. There was a sort of common denominator. It's a great leveler to have Tony in a room with these individuals, particularly showing them about selling a punch, showing them about camera angles, showing them about not only selling the punch from the attacker's point of view, but selling it from the opponent's point of view, from receiving that punch. You have to be, this punch is only as good as you selling it on the receiving end. And he was very good at going up and down the line of people and saying, I wouldn't do that if I were you. I would come at it from here. Remember, the camera's here. So you've got to come right through with this, and then you've got to sell that punch from over there. So it was all that stuff which I thought was really, really impressive. And whenever we did anything that was, there is a little clip which I will put on here. Whenever we did anything that was involving a prop, there's a bottle sequence. Fight.
You look at my wife again. Why not? You dirty rat. Bang! Bang! Pop! Boom! Boom! You dirty bastard! Oh, that was a real bop. You got that?
Oh yes.
Don't let me catch you again. Okay. You should tell her, not me.
Fight between Rocky and Tony. And Rocky accuses him of, spending time on my wife. And he hits him over the head with a bottle. It's just fast. I mean, I filmed the thing on my phone at the time, so the quality's not great from 2013, but it gives you a little idea of just the sheer amusement of the whole thing. And how good a lot of this stuff was, you know. So I will miss him enormously. I know there are many, many, many thousands of people who will miss him as well. Tony was a joy to be around. If you were with him on a professional basis, you will miss him because he was an extraordinary individual. If you had 5 minutes with him, he will have changed you. That's the mark of the man. It didn't matter what it was. He would have had a few moments with you. You'd have spoken. You might have had a coffee together. You would remember him because he was a really, really nice bloke. And it's a great loss. And I'm very sad knowing that the world doesn't have a Tony Van Silva anymore. So love to the friends, love to the family. You know, anything that needs doing, we're here, but whatever that is, but we will do whatever we can. And next week, our schedule will be back to normal, but I needed to say something about Tony because he was massively important to many of us. And next time you see a picture and you see him on screen, you know, just give him a nod and say thank you, because he would have worked extremely hard doing whatever he was doing on the picture in whatever capacity, but he also would have worked extremely hard with those individuals around him as other performers and putting people at ease and just making the day better. And you know that people will have enjoyed themselves when they walk into the room and go, oh, Tony's here, you know, and they all of a sudden the day is a much brighter place. So Tony, thank you. God love you, mate, wherever you are. And safe trip. Until next time. Bye-bye.